Shalom, 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 shalom. As always, I want to give all the praises and the glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash. Yahweh is the Most High's name, which means He is who He is to be. Yahweh Shai is the Son's name, which means He's the deliverer, who the world ignorantly calls God and Jesus Christ. Yahweh is the Most High God, Yahweh Shai is the Son. Double honors to the apostles, the elders of Great Millstone, our teachers, our elders. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to my fellow Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters out there who are going to be edified by the truth of the scriptures and who we are, the true children of Israel, the Israelites, and who the other nations are, according to Bible prophecy. As we all know, we can all see quite clearly, we are truly in the latter days of the last days. The Great Awakening, Ezekiel chapter 37, is in full motion across the four corners of the world. The awakening of the children of Israel. Like the apostles always says, the tents of Judah shall rise up first, which is the southern kingdom, and then the northern kingdom will be joined by them. That's why the scripture talks about Judah and Israel are oppressed together, and the Lord is coming back for Judah and Israel, which are the 12 tribes of Israel. The Apostle James, when he wrote in James chapter 1, when he wrote his epistle, who did James write to? James chapter 1 verse 1, James, a servant of the Most High and of the Lord, Yahweh Shai, Mashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. Greetings to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. So who are the 12 tribes? To the 12 tribes which are scattered. The 12 tribes are the Israelites. Now, as you should know by now, that the 10 lost tribes of Israel were scattered across the Americas, North America, South America, Canada, and all throughout the West Indies. They were referred to as the Northern Kingdom. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the Israelite history of the Native American Indians in the time of Columbus. So when these Edomites came upon the Native American Indians of North, South America, and Canada and the West Indies, they quite well knew that they were the 10 lost tribes of Israel. This is how Christopher Columbus knew that there was people living out in which the Bible refers to as the fourth part of the world. He had read the second Ezra's, chapter 13. So he had read Ezra's 1, Ezra's 2, and when he read Ezra's 2, he was able to establish that there are a nation of people that are living out there across the Atlantic Ocean to the west. So we're going to read some articles from this book here, The History of Ancient America, Anterior to the Time of Columbus, proving the identity of the Aborigines, right, which are the Native American Indians, with the Tyrians. The Tyrians were the Phoenicians, which, remember, Solomon had a navy at Tarshish, right? And some of those Phoenicians made up part of his navy that took that trip to the Americas before the Northern Kingdom was taken into captivity by Shalmaneser V. So those were the Tyrians, the Phoenicians, the Sidonians, right? He had a navy at Ezengibea on the Red Sea, and at Tarshish, which is what we know today as modern day Spain. All right. The Israelites are the Native American Indians, which we refer to as the Northern Kingdom, after the Kingdom of Israel has split into two. And the introduction of Christianity, white supremacy Jesus, into the Western Hemisphere. All right. So this book was written by this, he referred to himself as Apostle St. Thomas, right? George Jones. So This, what was brought to them, exactly what it says here, the introduction of Christianity, which is what we keep telling you today is what's referred to as what we refer to as white supremacy Christianity. Christianity was white Jesus. The introduction of white Jesus into the Western Hemisphere. When they arrived in the Western Hemisphere, they knew who these people were. So let's, without further ado, we're going to go through some parts of this book that I've got here earmarked out. So this is chapter 2 in the book, right, that we're reading. This is, we're in chapter 2. I think this is about page 11 or page 10 that we're at here. So as you can see at the bottom here, we're going to read the highlighted parts that we've highlighted out in this book here, and then we're going to bring out some scriptures on the way to show you once again that these Edomites, these Europeans, when they came to the Americas, when they saw the customs of the Native American Indians of North, South America and Canada and the Caribbean, the West Indies, when they saw their customs, they knew directly that these were the Hebrew Israelites. These were the 10 lost tribes of Israel. This was the northern kingdom that they had come upon. As I said, Columbus knew who he was going, who he was looking for when he went to the Americas. All right. So it says here, the northern mother, which is, when it says the northern mother, it's talking about North America. All right. As the Bible refers to America, the country as the country of the North, right? The North country. It's also referred to in the Bible as the North country. All right. It says the northern mother, talking about North America, after childbirth, the Native American Indians in North America, after childbirth, is secluded for a given number of days, varying according to the sex of the newborn infant. By the law of Moses, the mother's purification was to last 40 days for a male and 80 days for a female. All right? 40 days for a male, 80 days for a female. And all other seclusions are restricted as when the wife becomes a mother. When a wife becomes a widow and is childless, her husband's brother marries her. Same customs as in Moses' laws, right? When we say Moses' laws, we mean the laws of the Most High, but we refer to it as the laws of Moses, so you understand what we're talking about. So the same customs they had when a wife becomes a widow and is childless, her husband's brother marries her. These were essential laws of the Hebrew, and especially the latter, that a name should not be lost in Israel. So those same laws that the Israelites had, the Native American Indians had. When they gave birth, they would do the law of purification. So what's the law of purification? Let's quickly have a look at it here. So these are the same customs that they abided by. The law of purification is the laws of motherhood, all right? And we'll quickly read it. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If a woman has conceived seed and born a man child, that she shall be unclean 7 days. According to the days of separation, for her infirmity shall she be unclean. And the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised, right? The law of circumcision. And she shall then continue in the blood of her purifying 33 days. She shall touch no hallowed thing, nor come into the sanctuary until the days of her purifying be fulfilled. And if she bear a maid child, which is a female, a baby girl, then she shall be unclean 2 weeks as in her separation, and she shall continue in the blood of her purifying 66 days. And when the days of her purifying are fulfilled, for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring a lamb of the first year for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation of the priest. So, for a male child, the days of purification is 33 plus 7, which is 40 days. All right? This is the law of motherhood for the Israelites. For a female child, if the child is a girl, the days of separation, the laws of separation is 2 weeks, which is 14 days, and she shall continue in the blood of her purifying 66 days, which is 66 days. So 66 had 14. So lucky is 80. So the laws of motherhood, which is the laws of purification, for a male child, an Israelite, is 40 days. For a female child, it's 80 days. So what did St. Thomas say here? What did the Apostle Thomas say here? The priest say here? He said these were the laws that they were abiding by. The Northern Mother, which is the Native American Indians of North America, after childbirth, all right, is secluded for a given number of days, varying according to the sex of a newborn infant. By the law of Moses, the mother's purification was to last, 40 days for a male and 80 days for a female. So they abided by the laws of Moses, right? This is what they came across, the Native American Indians. The exact same laws of purification. It says all other seclusions are as strict as when the wife becomes a mother. So she had to be secluded from the congregation. The exact same laws of Moses. Or when a wife becomes a widow and is childless, her husband's brother marries her, as we know. These were essential laws of the Hebrew, especially the latter, that a name should not be lost in Israel. So the same thing. If you remember with the story of Judah, when Judah, he goes into that. Let me just quickly find this. It's Exodus. 1 second, family. Is it Genesis? Let's just bring that up. Genesis 38. So Judah and Tamar, Genesis 38 and 1. And it came to pass at the time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned to a certain Adullamite whose name was Hirah. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shula. And he took her and he went in unto her, and she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name All right. And she conceived again and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Chezib, and she bare him. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn. So Judah took a wife for his firstborn son whose name was Tamar. Right? Whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him, so he died. So Judah's firstborn son died, having a wife named Tamar. And Judah said unto Onah, go in unto thy brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. Right? So, because this is the laws of Moses, right? The laws of the Most High, but like I said, I'm going to refer to it as the laws of Moses, so you understand what we're talking about. So the father said unto his second son, Onah, go in to thy brother's wife, Tamar, and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. And Onah knew that the seed should not be his, and it came to pass that when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest she should give seed to his brother, because he knows that he will go in and take his brothers to be his wife, but he will be continuing the bloodline of his brother, more so of his own, even though it's his own seed that he's going to be procreating with his brother's wife after his brothers died. All right, just so you understand. And at that time when he did it, he displeased the Lord, because what he did was wrong by spilling his seed on the ground, because he's meant to go in onto his brother's wife. His brothers died. The laws of Moses that he takes his brother's wife as wife, and he raises up children to her in his brother's name. Wherefore he slew him also. So Onah was killed for what he did, because he spilled his seed on the ground purposely, instead of impregnating Tamar to bring up his brother's seed. And then said Judah to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow at thy father's house until Shelah, my son, be grown, his other son, until he becomes a man. For he said, lest peradventure he die also, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. All right? So this is the laws of Moses, all right? So just like what we read here, the Native American Indians, where it says here, It says all other seclusions are as strict as when the wife becomes a mother. When a wife becomes a widow and is childless, her husband's brother marries her. Laws of Moses. These were essential laws of the Hebrew, and especially the latter, that a name should not be lost in Israel. Okay, now remember, this book that we're reading out was written in the 16th century. I believe it's the 16th century. This book was written, published. It was either in the late 16th century or early 17th century. This is what I'll quickly see. So I put it here in front of me as well. I believe it is the 17th century. This book was actually written, right? The ruins, because it's also this book is also related to, it's called also the ruins of antiquity in ancient America, and described and analyzed, and the original architects identified. So it has like a sub name as well, this book basically, but I believe it was the 17th century. I can't see the actual date printed here. Let me just see if I can see. I believe it was the 17th century, like 1843. Okay, so 17, okay, so it's the 18th century. The 18th century this book was written in, okay? So, right up until, let's just see, ancient America. Okay, so let's go to the next page, all right? So this is the next article I want to bring up in this book, all right? It says the only cause of Pharaoh's political action against the Hebrews was that from the rapid ratio in which they multiplied, just like today, all right, the Israelites, we have the largest families, whether it's Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, Colombians, African Americans, West Indians, and Caribbeans. We are no different than from our ancestors, because we are our ancestors here back again in the reincarnation. We are our ancestors here back again. It says they would eventually rebel, and with or without the assistance of any other nation, entirely subdued by Egypt. It says the ease of childbirth by the Hebrew mother is distinctly stated in the Holy Writ, in contrast to the dangerous sufferings of the Egyptians' parents, from which fact may be gathered the cause of the gradual but certain increase of the Israelites over the Egyptian population. So it says the same peculiar facility of childbirth is one of the chief characteristics of the northern, which is the northern Native American Indians of North America, of the northern female. For in the Rocky Mountains, right, while journeying in cavalcade and being taken in travail, the mother will leave her companions alone, and within an hour will remount her horse and overtake her associates with the newborn infant in her hands. So what did the Egyptian midwives say about the Israelite women when it came to giving birth, right? Because it says there, within an hour, it says the mother will leave her companions alone, right? So she's left her companions for them to continue their journey. The mother's pulled over with the Native American Indian midwife, probably a few women with her helping her. It says within an hour, she will remount her horse and overtake her associates with the newborn infant in her hands. Why is that? Let's go back. Let's go to Exodus chapter 1. What did the Egyptian midwives say about the Hebrew Israelite women? Let's quickly get it up. Verse. It says here, Exodus chapter 1, verse 15. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives. All right. So these were the Hebrew midwives, sorry, not the Egyptian midwives, of which the name of the one was Shipra and the name of the other was Puah. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew woman and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. All right. Because how does a nation come back? Through the men. That's how a nation is built, through the men, not through the women, through the men, through the seed. He says, but the midwives feared the Most High and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt, which is the Pharaoh, called for the midwives and said unto them, why have you done this thing and have saved the men children alive? Now listen to the response of the midwives. And the midwife said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women. They're not as the Africans. The Israelites were not as the Africans. Why is that? For they are lively and are delivered here the midwives coming unto them. All right? Therefore, the Most High dealt well with the midwives and the people multiplied and waxed very mightily. So basically what they were saying is that by the time the midwives came in unto the Hebrew women, the child was born. So by the time her water broke, and she's gone to lay down to give birth, and they've sent for the midwife. By the time the midwife has come to assist the Hebrew woman, by the time the Hebrew midwife has come, it says there, they are what? They are delivered here, the midwives coming unto them. So they're delivered by the time the midwives coming unto them. So the babies were delivered quickly. So the same thing we see here, right? Sorry. Where was we? Where they said here, the Rocky Mountains, it says, while journeying in the cavalcade and being taken in travail, pregnancy, the waters broke, right? The baby's ready to come. The mother will leave her companions. She's left her companions alone. She stopped to give birth, and within an hour will remount her horse and overtake her associates with the newborn in her arms. So, same thing. The Native American Indians, the women, were known for dropping their babies quick. So they was coming out. By the time the water break, within half hour, an hour, the baby was born. She wasn't sitting there like what we see today, right? Where, women are in labor for 10, 12, 15 hours, whatever. Within an hour, she was giving birth. Simple. So this is another proof for you to understand that the Native American Indians are Israelites, right? So here we're on page 14 of the same book. It says original history, right? It says tribes. Let me read this down here. It says tribes, when they march to battle, all right? So when the Native American Indian tribes march to battle, a similitude is here to Joshua at the siege of Jericho. Well, praises to Yahweh. Listen to this similitude that they have to when Joshua and the Israelites marched on the city of Jericho, right? I remember Jericho is the city where, Rahab was, the prostitute Rahab, when Joshua had sent 2 spies to the city and she hid them in her house and lowered them down from her house, and Joshua promised her that when we come to take Jericho, that she must hang something out of her window, I believe, so that we know it's your house and we won't destroy your house, and we'll make sure we get to evacuate you from the destruction. All right, I believe that's what was told to Rahab, the prostitute, the harlot, by the 2 spies that Joshua sent on the city of Jericho, because she hid them in the house. But listen to what the writer is saying here, right? This is what, and remember, this is a man that lived amongst the Native American Indians. So this ain't like no third party, fourth party I heard. This is what he wrote when he lived amongst them, when he was amongst the Native American Indians, right? He said, the similitude is here to Joshua, right, at the siege of Jericho. It says, when it is in their peaceful encampment, it is surrounded by 12 stones, indicative of the original number of the tribes of their ancestors. Now, what are they speaking about? Let's go, hold on a minute. Before we get there, let's just go back here, because it kind of starts here. I kind of skipped a bit. Right. It says the northern Aborigines were the North American, Native American Indians, right? The northern Aborigines are North. He's talking about the North American Native American Indians. All right, have a traditional knowledge of the deluge and the dove of peace, which to them, under the name of the medicine or mystery bird, is sacred from the arrow of the hunter. As you know, the dove is sacred to the Israelites. That's the bird that Noah sent out to see if there was any land. All right. Now, he says they have a traditional knowledge. So the Native American Indians had a traditional knowledge of the deluge, which is the flood, and the dove of peace. Right? So they knew about these things. Why? Because their ancestors told them about these stories about the flood. This is how they knew about the flood, because they were told by their ancestors, which to them, under the name of the medicine or mystery bird, is sacred from the arrow of the hunter. They have their own ark of covenant, in which is deposited some mystery. So what was in the ark of the covenant? The laws, commandments, and statutes, right? The two slabs that was given to Moses on Mount Sinai. So the Native American Indians had their own Ark of Covenant, in which is deposited some mystery, seen only by the priests of the tribe. So who carried the Ark of the Covenant for the Israelites? Only the Levite priests were allowed to carry it, to hold it, to open it, to, you know, when they was doing their ceremonies, it was only the Levite priests. So the Native American Indians had their own set of priests that carried their own version of the Ark of the Covenant. It says that it is said to be a shell and supposed to give out auricular sounds, right? This is an analogy to the book of the laws placed in the Ark of the Covenant by Moses, preceding his death on Mount Nebo. The auricular wisdom of which has guided civilization to this day. The ark is never suffered to touch the earth, but is always raised on a stand of wood or stone. It is invariably carried by, let's go back here, by the tribe when they march to battle. Right, so a similitude is here to Joshua at the siege of Jericho. So let's have a quick look at that. That's in Joshua chapter 6. So they had an Ark of a Covenant that was similar to what the Israelites had. Only the priests of the Native American Indians carried it, and they only carried it when they were going to war. So let's quickly read here. Joshua chapter 6, and we'll see if we can go straight to the point. The conquest of Jericho. So let's quickly jump down here. It says, and Joshua, the son of Nun, called the priests, the Levite priests, and said unto them, take up the Ark of the Covenant, same thing that Native American Indians did with their Ark of the Covenant, the exact same thing that they had, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the Ark of the Lord. And he said to the people, pass on, and come past the city, and let him that is armed pass on before the ark of the Lord. And it came to pass, when Joshua had spoken unto the people, that 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns passed on before the Lord and blew the trumpets, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord followed them. And the armed men that are going to war went before the priests that blew with the trumpets, and the reward came after the ark, the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. And Joshua had commanded the people, saying, ye shall not shout, nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth until the day I bid you shout, then ye shall shout. All right? So let's quickly just go down to the point. I don't want to read all of this. Verse 20, all right? Joshua chapter 6, verse 20. It says, so the people shouted when the priest blew with the trumpets. And it came to pass, when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went into the city, every man straight before him. They took the city, and they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, and ox and sheep and ass, with the edge of the sword. But Joshua had said unto the 2 men that had spied out the country, Go in unto the harlot's house, and bring out thence the woman and all that she has, as ye swear unto her. So that's to do with Rahab, the harlot, what I was speaking about earlier. So before they would go to war, the Levite priests would carry the Ark of the Covenant, right, with the soldiers following on behind them, basically. So the same thing, the same thing the Native American Indians did. They had their own ark. It says, the tribe, when they would march to battle, a similitude is here to Joshua at the siege of Jericho. So they did the exact same thing. It said, when it is in their peaceful encampment, it is surrounded by what? 12 stones, 12 tribes of Israel. Indicative of the original number of the 12 of the tribes of their ancestors. This is strictly in analogy with the 12 statues, probably rude blocks of stones erected by Moses around the altar of the covenant to personify the 12 tribes of Israel. It says, Joshua also, after the passage of the Jordan, erected 12 stones in his encampment at Gilgal, and the same number in the river at the place of the passage. They select their medicine men, i.e. priests or prophets, from among a portion of the tribe, not warriors. Same thing the Native American Indians did. Remember, they called them medicine men. The Israelites just referred to their medicine men as prophets and priests, all right? So they did the same thing, because the priests came from the tribes of Levi, all right? They didn't come from any of the other 11 tribes, basically, or 12 tribes. They only came from Levi, because remember, Joseph was split into 2, Ephraim and Manasseh, all right? It says they select their medicine men, i.e. priests or prophets from among a portion of the tribe, not warriors. Here is the custom of the Levites or descendants of Aaron being in the sacred office of priesthood. For with the Israelites, they were not to be taken from the ranks of the soldiery. The Aborigines, the Native American Indians, dwell in booths, as when brought out of the land of Egypt, for they are still wanderers, right? Same way, right? They dwell in booths, the Israelites dwell in booths. They offer a flesh or burnt offering from the chase, which is the first cast into the flames, before even a starving family may eat. They have their corn and harvest feast. Also, one in observance of every, see that, new moon. Because every new moon is a what? Is a new Sabbath. And the new moons represents what? What does the new moon represent? The new moon represents the high holy days, all right? That's what the new moon is there for. The moon's there for them to reckon, so they can know when the beginning of the month is, and they can count the days for them to celebrate the high holy days in Israel. Well, the Native American Indians did the exact same thing. They have their own corn and harvest feast, also one in observance of every new moon, another in festivity of the first fruits. What are the first fruits? The harvest, the first fruits of harvest, which is what we call the day of Pentecost. Well, what the Christian church calls the day of Pentecost. It's 50 days after the Passover. So we're in the Passover right now. In 50 days' time from today, will be the day, it will be the festival of first fruits. They had the same thing. They had a festival of first fruits. And the great feast in direct analogy with what? With the Hebrew Passover. They even had a great feast that was the same as the Hebrew Passover. And we just happen to be in Passover today. Well, praises to Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Even to the blood being what? Being strained upon the posts and lintels, and the mingling of the most bitter herbs. They celebrate the exact same way, the Passover. Then their fastings and purifications are what? Are practiced with the greatest severity. The breastplate or the ornament worn by their religious prophets, right? Which their priests, their medicine men, containing 12 shells or stones of value, is in direct imitation. Hold on. Direct imitation of the ancient pictorial worn by the Hebrew high priest, and which contained 12 precious stones inscribed with the names of all the 12 original tribes of Israel. So their priests, their medicine men, had a breastplate of ornament worn by their religious prophets, their priests, their medicine men, containing 12 shells, it said, or stones of value. And it said it's in a direct imitation, exactly the same as of the ancient pictorial worn by the Hebrew high priest, which were contained in the 12 precious stones inscribed with the names of the 12 original tribes of Israel. That's absolutely beautiful. So we know that they was also celebrating these high holy days. We're not going to read it, but here it is, the laws of religious festivals. So they recognize the Sabbath, in the 14th day of the first month. They recognize the Passover. They celebrate the Passover. All right. On the 50th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. All right. The 15th day, the Feast of Unleavened Bread unto the Lord, and you have 7 days of unleavened bread. All right. And then in the first day you shall have holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. I want to come down to the first fruits. Here it is here. It says, speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, when ye come into the land which I give you unto you, ye shall reap the harvest thereof. Then ye shall bring a sheaf of first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. And ye shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted for you on the morrow. After the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. So the exact same religious festivals that we celebrated, all right, which are all literally here in Leviticus 23, the Native American Indians, the exact same festivals that we celebrate, like it says here, they have their corn and harvest feast, also one in observe of every new moon. How anyone can keep banging on about black only Israelites, right? These black only Israelites nutcases is beyond me. These are men that lived during the times when the Native American Indians were celebrating these feasts and were speaking to them and writing down about what they're celebrating, what their festivals represents, you know, the high holy days, the Sabbath, the Passover, and everything they was doing was in according to the religious festivals that we have in the Bible. Just like it says there, another in the feast, the festivity of the first fruits, and the great feast is directly an analogy with the Hebrew Passover. All praises to Yahweh Shimi Hoshai. So it says here, the medicine bag or pouch is carried by every member of the tribe. It is suspended to a bead belt which crosses the breast by passing over the left shoulder and hangs on the right side. It contains, as they say and believe, preservatives to keep them from sickness or defeat. These are essentially the what? The phylacteries referred to by the Savior and previously condemned by Moses. For the word phylactery is derived from the Greek tongue and denotes a preservative. And in the time of Moses, they were worn by his people in great excess. And so by the what? By the northern natives. So they also wore phylacteries. They also wore phylacteries. You tell me that these ain't the Native American Indians. It says here, then the absence of all idols or symbolical, right, devices, and the worship of the one God, i.e. Great Spirit, because they referred to the Most High as the Great Spirit, right? But watch this. It says, they're never pronouncing the name Jehovah, right? They don't pronounce the name Jehovah, but listen how they pronounce it. But in syllables, and those separated by long ceremonies, thus truly fulfilling the Hebrew law, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, right? Deuteronomy chapter 6, right? Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. The name with them sounds as if it was written Yahovah, which would be Yahweh. Yahovah, which would be Yahweh. They knew the name of the Most High. Yet we have Israelites today that claim that we don't know the name of the Most High. Our ancestors, the Native American Indians, knew the name of the Most High. So they had it written as, it sounds like Yahweh. And it's only pronounced by the Aaron of the tribe, which is the priest of their tribe. So the Aaron of their tribe would be the medicine man, the high holy man of the Native American tribe. In their hymns of rejoicing, the word hallelujah is what? Is distinctly uttered. It's distinctly uttered. To the foregone analogies is to be added the general and firm belief in what? In the immortality of the soul. So they even understood, remembered, and they believed in the immortality of the soul, which is what we tell you. The soul can't ever die. The body dies, but the soul, the spirit goes back to the Most High. It says, but beyond all of this, as proof of their origin, is the practice of the great covenant between the Almighty Father and the patriarch Abraham, right? Circumcision. All praises. Let's quickly let's grab a precept for that. Acts chapter 7. So they didn't just know the name of the Most High. They knew how to call on him, the word hallelujah, all right? They also practice circumcision. So going back to our forefathers, Acts 7 and 8. And he gave him the covenant of circumcision. Who did he give it to? And so Abraham begat Isaac and circumcised him the 8th day. And Isaac begat Jacob, and Jacob begat the 12 patriarchs. And the patriarchs moved with envy and sold Joseph into Egypt, but the Most High was with him, right? Goes into the story of Joseph going into Egypt. But the point here is that Abraham begat Isaac and circumcised him the 8th day, and Isaac begat Jacob. So the covenant of circumcision that was given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They practiced it. They also practice Deuteronomy chapter 6, the one God, the one power, Yahweh. They called on his name. Deuteronomy 6 verse 4. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh, this is the Lord, that be Yahweh, our power is one, Yahweh. And thou shalt love Yahweh, thy power, with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart. So it was in their heart. It was in their heart, because they believed in the one God, the one power, and they called on his name, Yahweh. And in their songs that they were singing, they were uttering the word hallelujah. Praises to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. So, it says here, if all other evidence, all right, were not received, that of circumcision as a religious ceremony must be viewed by the most skeptical as direct proof of identity between the northern Aborigines, which are the Native American Indians, and the ancient Hebrews. So he's saying if you want to rule out everything else, then how do you answer circumcision and the name of the Most High? How can you rule that out? They knew the name of the Most High, and they practiced circumcision on the 7th day. On the 8th day, should I say. The customs we have written is not general, it is only found in the more settled tribes. It says here, it says, this even supports our belief, for in this very fact is traced again the precedent ordained by Moses, for circumcision was discontinued by the great lawgiver for 40 years while they was in the wilderness, right? For circumcision was discontinued by the great lawgiver for 40 years during his journeying with his followers through the wilderness. The custom was re-established by Joshua, right? It says, may not this innovation by Moses in the convented custom be imitated by these descendants? It says, are they not still wanderers in the wilderness in the Western? Because we're in captivity. They were wanderers in the Americas. We were wanderers on the west coast of Africa, all the way down to South Africa. And we are still wanderers today. We just now know who we are. It says, are they not still wanderers in the wilderness in the Western, as their ancestors were in the Eastern Hemisphere? The affirmative has existed for ages, and it was even now continues. They have not yet returned to Jerusalem. They have not yet returned. So even the scholar understood that the end game is that we're going to return to Jerusalem. So in the 18th century, 19th century, I think it was 18 something, he wrote this, right? Even this scholar here, Sir Thomas, knew that the end game is that Israel has to return to Jerusalem. It says, one fact is of great importance in proof of their great antiquity. They have no knowledge or tradition in the north of the life or crucifixion of Yahushua, all right? Yet they have knowledge of the deluge. So the Native American Indians in the north, they said they had no knowledge of the life and the crucifixion of Yahushua, yet they have the knowledge of the deluge, okay, that makes sense, and actually practice the laws of Moses, as we have determined. Again, we must repeat that we are writing of these Aborigines as they were at the time of what? Of European colonization. Can't say this again. Let me just read this again. It says, again, we must repeat that we are writing of these Aborigines, Native American Indians, as they were actually living at the time of what? Of European colonization. This ain't no second-hand, third-hand, I heard this, I heard that. They are writing this directly during the time of their colonization while they was living amongst them. It says here, the above singular fact enables us at once to place them in a chronological position. It must be after Moses, but before the Savior. But another fact brings their circle of time still narrower. They have no tradition of the destruction of the first temple of Jerusalem. Why is that? Because the destruction took place after the Native American Indians of the Northern Kingdom was taken into captivity by Shalmaneser. It says here, this event occurred, so the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem, this is the Babylonians, Nebuchadnezzar, we're talking about the time of Nebuchadnezzar. So he's saying they have no tradition or remembrance or memory, or there's no one speaking about the story of the destruction of the first Temple of Jerusalem, which makes sense. Why? Because they had left the Northern Kingdom before this took place. It says here, this event occurred 588 years before Yahushua. It must therefore be anterior to that national calamity that they trace their origin. Of this hereafter, when in the next volume the history of the Israelites will be given. But even now, justice to this race compels us to offer a few words in their defense as a people for being already sufficiently shown that. So they have no knowledge of, what don't they have any knowledge of? They have no knowledge of this, right? Because they were taken out. Is it First Kings, Second Kings 22? No, Second Kings 17. Because they were taken out of their land, Hoshea reigns over Israel. Yeah, okay, let me just quickly jump down to the point. They were taken out of their land by Shalmaneser. 2 Kings 17:22. For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did. They departed not from them until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by his servants, the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Kutar and from Avar and from Hamath and from Seraphim and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. So Israel, the northern kingdom, was taken into captivity by the king of Assyria, Shalmaneser. All right. Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, brought the Israelites from the northern kingdom. At this time, Israel is split into two: the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, and then which is the southern kingdom. And then you had the northern kingdom, which was like Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Naphtali, Asher, Issachar, Simeon, so forth and so on, right? That's the northern kingdom. Israel split into two. So that's why it says the children of Israel walked in the sins of Jeroboam. Jeroboam was the first king of the northern kingdom. After Solomon died, Israel split into two, had two kings. Jeroboam was the king of the northern kingdom. Rehoboam was Solomon's son, was the king of the southern kingdom. By the time we come down to King Hoshea here, this is like another 250 years after Jeroboam, right? Hoshea is now the king of the northern kingdom. He did a bit of treachery against the Assyrian king. He was trying to link up, I think, with the Egyptians, right? So that he could stop giving them tribute. So the king of Assyria took, as it says there, in the 9th year of Hoshea, right? See, Israel's captive. The king of Assyria took Samaria, which is the northern kingdom, and carried them away into Assyria and placed them in Hala and in Harbah by the river of Gozan and in the city of the Medes, right? And then what he did, when he took them into captivity, then he brought his people. You see, the cities of Israel are filled with strangers. That's why the Lord said to the disciples, go not in the way of the Gentiles or into any city of the Samaritans, enter ye not, but go look for the lost sheep of the house of Israel and tell them that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Because the people that was literally in the northern kingdom in Samaria now, when I say the people, let's say for argument's sake, the majority of them, 90% of them, or 95% of them, were the descendants of these people that the king of Assyria brought. He brought men from Babylon and from Kutar and Avar, Hamath and Seraphim, and he placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And if you go to the end, it says here, so these nations feared the Lord and served their graven images. So they had the graven images, these other nations that came into the land of Israel, both their children and their children's children, as did their fathers, so do they unto this day. Unto this day, it is heathens of other nations, mainly the Edomites today, that are in the promised land, the land of Israel. So the Israelites never ever went back to Samaria, to the northern kingdom. All right. They had other plans. What they did, let's quickly go to it. Hold on. They had other plans, right? This is what they did. Let's just get it up here. Second Ezra. But this is how Columbus knew how to find the Americas, and how he knew that those were Hebrews in America, and hence why he had Hebrew translators on his ships when he went to the Americas, right? When he arrived in the West Indies, because he never actually stepped a foot in North America itself. He landed in the West Indies, Columbus, Hispaniola. We don't want to go to verse 39. It says, and whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him. Those are the 10 tribes, right? Because this goes into salvation, but it's telling you who those people are and how they ended up where they are today. It says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hoshea the king, which we just read, who Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, led away captive, which we just read. And he carried them over the waters, so they came there into another land. We went into the kingdom of Assyria, right, into the Medes. But they took this counsel amongst themselves, the Israelites, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. All right. So they took this counsel amongst themselves after the 25 years of captivity under the Assyrian king. When their bondage came to an end, they said, right, we're not going to go back to Israel. We want to go to a new place to worship the Most High, Yahweh, to worship Yahweh, right? So this is what they did, that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates, right, the river Euphrates, by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over, right? Because this journey had been taken before, but the Most High controlled the seas and the winds to make sure that that east wind that was blowing would blow in their favor, that the seas wouldn't be too rough for them to travel through to go to this new land. For through that country, there was a great way to go, namely of 1.5 years. How do they know about this journey? King Solomon had a fleet at, Ezon Gideon, I always pronounce that wrong. Second Kings, hold on. King Solomon. One second. Solomon, yes, it's Solomon. Yeah, 12. One second, family. Let's see if we can find it. Solomon had a fleet with King Hiram, I believe it was. Hold on. See the fleet. Let's see if it comes up as fleet. One second. Is it a fleet? Solomon had. Yeah, here it is. 1 Kings 9 and 26. I went right past it. I looked at it, I went right past it. King Solomon also built a fleet of ships at Ezion Geber, which is near Eleph, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. Then Hiram sent him servants with the fleet, seamen who knew the sea, to work with the servants of Solomon. It was 10 and 22. I was looking at 22, but let's quickly go to here, all right, just so you can see. So it says, for the kings had merchant ships at the sea with the fleet of Hiram. Once every 3 years, the merchant ships came, bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and monkeys. So King Solomon surpassed all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. That's the fleet that he had with Hiram at Ezion Geber in the land of Edom that took that journey to the Americas. This is how the northern kingdom knew about that journey, that trip to the Americas, as you're going to see here. So Solomon, just like it says here, it says the fleet took once every 3 years, the merchant ships came bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes and monkeys. So it was a 3-year round trip journey. So check this out here. It says here, it says they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country, right, through the seas, right, there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. And the same region is called Azareth, right? So it took them a year and a half to get there. So how long was the round journey for King Solomon's fleet? Every 3 years. Every 3 years was the round journey. Just so you can see. So every 3 years is the round journey. King Solomon's fleet would take 3 years was the round journey, right? Which means it took a year and a half there, a year and a half to come back. It took the northern kingdom a year and a half, for through that country there was a great way to go through the seas, namely of a year and a half. And the same region is called Azareth. Azareth just means in the Hebrew, another land. All right. So you would have like Aratazah means land, and Akar means another. If we go to, I think Deuteronomy 29. Yeah, this is going to be a bit of a long one today, so we're just going to stick with it, boy. For those that truly want to be edified. Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 28. Is it here? There it is. It says here, another. This is what he's talking about. This is the Hebrew word, akar, which means another. This is what the word is. Azareth is, in the Hebrew, it is akar aratazar, all right? Aratazar. And then land. Oops. What did I do? They pronounce it Eretz, but it's Aratazar, Aratazar in the Hebrew, which means land, earth, another land. This is what this is. It's like a bastard version of the word. See, it says here, Azaretz, another land. Eretz. That's why they got it here as Eretz, Azaretz. Eretz, but it's actually in the Hebrew here, Aratazar. It says Eretz. That's what this is here. It's called Azaretz. It was another land. That's the Americas. Then it says, then dwelt they there until the latter time. And now when they shall begin to come. What was that latter time? Basically when the Southern Kingdom was going to come on the transatlantic slave ships to join them. Because this is the great place of deliverance, remember, right? Is the Americas. So, where was we? Yeah, we read that. So it says here. So we was reading. So they are of the great Hebrew family, right? The Native American Indians. They concluded that the Native American Indians, they are, which are the Aborigines, they call them the Northern Aborigines, which are the Native American Indians, right? They refer to them as either Aborigines or the Northern Kingdom, right? Which we're telling you who they are. They are, the Native American Indians are of the great Hebrew family, the 12 tribes of Israel. They may fall in the estimation of some readers upon religious principles, right? Like the Vocab Malone, they don't believe that, right? In his estimation, he doesn't believe they are. Or ISP UK, who just believe that all Israelites are black. So just like it says here, they may fall in the estimation of some readers upon their religious principles. It has been shown that they have no tradition of the crucifixion, right? Or of the desolation of the temple, because they came before the crucifixion, they came before the desolation of the temple, all right? But watch this. It says, is there no sentiment in the mind of the Christian reader as the first fact is unfolded, other than that of historical data? Upon a moment's thought, it must be apparent that the blood of Yahushua cannot be upon them or their children, right? Their ancestors never shouted in the streets of Jerusalem, crucify him, crucify him. Why? Because they was in the Americas, right? They'd gone to the Americas 720 years prior, or 730 years prior to Yahushua's crucifixion. It says the Aborigines of the North are Israelites. You hear that? So he's telling you directly, the scholar. The Aborigines, which are the Native American Indians of North America, are Israelites and of the house of Jeroboam. So for him to know that they're of the house of Jeroboam, he must understand the story of what we just read in 2 Kings chapter 17, all right, about the displacement of the northern kingdom, Samaria. So he says not Jews, because they refer to Jews as the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, all right? I.e., oh look, it says it right there, i.e. of the house of Judah. Absolutely right. A distinction of all importance, as the pages of subsequent volume will prove, right? A great distinction between the two. So the reader knows they're from the northern kingdom, from the house of Jeroboam, right? It says that if they are not of the lost tribes of Israel, who the fuck are they? Basically, that's what he's telling you. Everything that he's seen and written about these people, he's saying if these guys are not of the lost tribes of Israel, then who the heck are these people? They got to be the greatest imposters in the world. It says, what nation of ancient history can claim and identify those customs and observances as their own, if not the Hebrew? So every custom that they was identifying themselves with showed who they were. He says the color of the ancient Israelites must not be judged by that of the modern Jew, right? Because the modern Jew are not the ancient Israelites. That's why it says the color, because these are people of color. Some of them are really dark skin. The Seminole Indians were very dark skin, you know. The Mexicans, they were dark skin. It says the color of the ancient Israelite must not be judged by that of the modern Jew for various climates, right? Because we know those are not the real Jews, right? Local circumstances and confined habitations have given the latter a what? A dark, heavy, swarthy, dark skin continents. What does the Bible say? Let's just quickly put it up here. Jeremiah 14:2. It says a dark, swarthy continent, right? Let's just go back to the KJV. It says, Judah mourners and the gates thereof languish. They are what? They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. Let's go Jeremiah chapter 8. Jeremiah chapter 8. He said they're swarthy, dark skin, swarthy. These Israelites, these Native American Indians. You see, they've been mixed amongst these Edomites for so long, since the colonization. For the hurt of the daughter of my people am I hurt, I am black. Astonishment has taken hold on me. I am black. Which in this, it should say Shakar. It says, I am Kadar. Be black, i.e. dark colored. Implication. See that? What did he say here? It was on this tab. On this one here. One more up. Must not be judged. He says they are what? He says they are given. He says, local circumstances and confined habitation have given the latter a what? A dark, heavy, swarthy, that's dark skin, swarthy continents. And even in the Middle Age, they are bent in figure. But the ancient light red tint may be but the original of the sunburnt features of the Aborigines. And they, from their forest life, reach at least 80 years before old age compels them to see the shadows as they walk. What does the Bible say? It says 80 years. The Lord says, was it 70 he gives you, right? So he's saying here, I am black, dark skin. If we go to Lamentations 4, what does scripture say? Chapter 4, verse 8. Their visage is what? Is blacker than a coal. Your visage is your face. They are not known in the streets. Their skin cleaves to their bone. It is withered. It has become a stick. Your visage is your face, right? So, it says, the words of the good friend William Penn may be given as a peculiar and powerful authority. After his first and celebrated interview with the northern natives, which is the North American Native American Indians, he wrote to England the following sentences in reference to them. I found them with like continence to the Hebrew race, and their children of so lively a resemblance to them. It says, at this and no other time did the thought of their being of the lost tribes of Israel enter his imagination. The sentences, therefore, are of great importance from the fact that they were not originally written by him to support any theory in reference to the Aborigines. So at the time, he didn't come to his mind at the time that they were the lost tribes of Israel. But after being amongst them and writing amongst them, he found them with the like continence to the Hebrew race, because that's who they are. It says here, some of the Mexican nations worship idols, and we know they're filled with idolatry down there even to this day, right? And knew not God, for they sacrifice human beings to appropriate their savage deities. The Northern Kingdom was doing that, burning their kids to, is it Moloch? They used to sacrifice their kids. So obviously, even some of their idolatry that they was doing, they brought with them. And this is talking about the Mexicans, right? Which are the Aztecs. It says, not so the noble Northerners. They worship the one God, all right? So the ones in North America wasn't so much into idolatry as the ones in Mexico, you know, in Mexico going down into South America. This is what he was finding, that he found when he was living amongst them, right? It says here, it says, not so the noble Northerners, right? Which was North America. They worship the one God who declared to the first lawgiver, thou shalt have no other God before me. And their only human sacrifice is the invader of their lands and birthright. It says, the only two analogies that existed between the North American Indians and the Mexican Americans, right? Going down south, right? Which is going into South America. Because when he says the Mexicans, he's talking about the Indians in South America, not just in Mexico, just so you understand. It says the only analogies that exist between the North and Mexican America, and which might apparently destroy or prevent the proof of this theory, are first, circumcision, and second, the similitude of language. So the one thing that unified the Native American Indians in North America, the Native American Indians in South America, he says the one thing that unified them was what? First, circumcision, and second, the similitude of their language, because they're the same people. It says in the North, circumcision, as we have shown, is a religious custom only. In Mexican, which is South America, territories, it was both optional and religious. All right. So he's showing you that the one thing, even though down in South America they was getting more involved in idolatry than those in North America, is the one thing that unified them is the circumcision, and their languages were so similar. Because obviously they were speaking some broken type of Hebrew, right, when they came. It says there, as an essential contrast between the Aborigines is the fact that in the north, they have, as already stated, no tradition of the crucifixion, right? That's in North America. While in this other portion of the continent, in South America, and for centuries before the rediscovery by Columbus, listen to this, they had a perfect knowledge of every peculiar of the life and death of Yahweh Shai. That's what struck me, because that makes total sense. What he's saying here, in North America, you know, the Gadai Indians, the Simeo Indians, he said they had no knowledge of the tradition of the crucifixion of Yahweh Shai, all right? While in the other portions of the continent, in South America, Mexico, going down, and for centuries before the rediscovery of by Columbus, right? Centuries before Columbus came, this is what the guy is telling you, right? He says they had a perfect knowledge of every particular of the life and death of Yahweh Shai. How is that? Kula Khan. Remember the stories that they tell you about a man that came to tell him about the end. I think the Mexicans refer to him as, is it Kula Khan? The Mexicans refer to him as, is it hold on, Kula Khan. See if I spelled this right. Mexico. I think it's Kula Khan they call him. Kula Khan. The Mexican guy. Let's not get it right. Kula Khan. Yeah. I'm sure that's who they refer to him as, Kula Khan. From the Yucatan, from the Mayans, the Aztecs, as a deity that they referred to Yahweh Shai as Kula Khan. I believe that's who they referred to as Yahweh Shai was Kula Khan, and that he had visited them before he went to the heavens of heavens. After he spent the 40 days and 40 nights with the apostles, that he came to the Americas before he went to the heavens of heavens. They said that he was visited by a god, a deity. And I believe it's the story of Kula Khan that they speak of, the Mexicans and those down in South America. So that makes total sense to me when he says here, where is it? Here. When he says here, the North American Indians had no knowledge of Yahweh Shai's life or crucifixion, but while in the other portion of the continent, South America, Mexico, and for centuries before the rediscovery, which is the right word to use, by Columbus, they had a perfect knowledge of every particular of the life and death of Yahweh Shai. And I believe it is Kuka Khan, yeah. Shalom, GMS away. Shalom, brother. That's who it is, Kuka Khan, that they are speaking of. So that makes total sense to me, because it is the South American Indians and the Mexicans that always speak about this, all right? Or Kula Khan, yeah. Respect, fam. Shalom, my brother. Shalom, GMS Hawaii. Yes. So that makes total sense to me, because they always talk about this figure that came and told them about, like, the end times and him coming back to deliver them and so forth and that. There was, I don't know the exact stories, but it's that they were visited by this deity, and this is why they worship. They have this great worshipping of Kula Khan within their society. All right, so that makes sense to me, because the North Americans never spoke about that. Let me show you. The North Americans never spoke about that, but they did. The South Americans did. Okay, what book is it that you're reading? Okay, let me, I'm going to put it up on the screen for you, all right? 1 second. That makes total sense to me. Total sense to me. This is it here. It's called The History of Ancient America, Anterior to the Time of Columbus, proving the identity of the Aborigines with the Tyrians and the Israelites, because the Tyrians were the shipmasters that Solomon had working with the Israelites when he had the navy, the fleet at Ezion Gibeah, the fleet that he had at Tarshish. It was the Tyrians, which was the Canaanites, with Hiram's fleet that the Israelites had. That's why it mentions with the Tyrians and Israelites. And the introduction of Christianity, white Jesus, into the Western Hemisphere by the Apostle St. Thomas. This was a priest that had gone to live amongst them, and he was the one that wrote this book in the 18th century about his encounter with the Native American Indians of North and South America, basically. But this is the book here, George Jones, yeah? For those of you who wanted to see. Oh, it's got a few more pages. I know we've gone on a bit longer than what I thought, but so it says here, so it says here, Mr. Stevens does not claim that China and Japan as the nations building these cities, right? Talking about the cities, the ruins in North and South America, all right? Those ruined cities that was there. When it talks about the first civilizations that were there, the Mayans, the Aztecs, right? Because some people say, oh, they were done by people that came from China and Japan. But listen to what it says here. It says here, he says he rejects them upon the ground of architectural comparison, right? Because they like to write off that the Native American Indians, the Mayans, the Aztecs, and the different kingdoms built those great cities and those pyramids in the Americas. They want you to believe it was another nation of people that did it. Some people say, oh, it was the Chinese or Japanese. But here it is. He says, we instantly join in this decision, right? They reject any claim that China, Japan had any Moab or Ammon had any part in building those cities in the Americas. It says, we instantly join in this decision, and to it add the impossibility from the want of navigable means, right? Which means to navigate by sea. Listen up carefully. But says the traveler, the supposition is that the vessels, were thrown upon the western coast of America, because they're trying to say they came to America by the western coast, right? They're trying to say that the people that came to America came by the west coast, that LA, Los Angeles, San Francisco, all those cities that are on the west coast. This is what people like to say, how they traveled to the Americas. But listen to what the scholar says here. He says, traveler, he says, but says the traveler, the supposition is that the vessels, were thrown upon the western coast of America, and thereby expressing that the arrival of those vessels was accidental, because they're trying to say, well, the Chinese and the Japanese landed there on the west coast accidentally. But watch this. It says, we will prove the impossibility of this for any vessel in the North Pacific Ocean, because the Pacific Ocean is China and Japan going that way. The Atlantic is coming to the west coast of Africa, and to the Middle East, so that way, right? It says, we will prove the impossibility of this for any vessel in the North Pacific Ocean, having left China or Japan and becoming unmanageable from the loss of rudder. The prevailing east wind would not only prevent the vessel from reaching the western coast. So the prevailing east wind would not only prevent any ship or vessel from reaching the western coast of the Americas, but actually it would drive the ship back to China or Japan. So he's telling you, navigable, right? For you to navigate a ship to the Americas, you could have never have come from the way of China or Japan to come to it on the west coast, right? Because the east winds would drive the ship back to China or Japan. It's too powerful. It says there, this last sentence is not given to refute Mr. Stevens, but those writers who may have, as he states, even supposed the possibility of vessels being accidentally thrown upon the western coast of America. He says, nature, listen carefully, would prevent it. This celebrated east wind, we shall have occasion to analyze and explain in the investigation of the first voyage around the continent of Africa by the Tyrians. Because who did the Tyrians come with? They came with Solomon's men when we read here earlier, hold on, is it First Kings chapter 9. Hold on. What we read here earlier. Here, 1 Kings 9 and 26. And King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezen Geber, which is beside Eloth on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom. And Hiram, right, these are the so-called Africans, right, sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. And they came to Ophir and fetched from thence gold 420 talents and brought it to King Solomon. Hiram. These go back to the Tyrians, to the I believe it is the Tyrians. Let me just have a quick look. Hiram, I believe he goes back to the Canaanites and the Tyrians. Let me just see if it shows you here. Yeah, here you go. 2 Samuel 5 and 11. And Hiram, see that? King of Tyre, sent messengers to David and cedar trees and carpenters and masons, and they built the city and the house. 1 Kings 5 and 1. And Hiram, king of Tyre, which are the Tyrians, sent his servants unto Solomon, for he had heard that they had anointed him king in the room of his father. For Hiram was ever a lover of David. The Tyrians are the Sidonians. Go back to the Canaanites, the Africans, right? Hence why the book is titled The Identity of the Aborigines with the Tyrians and the Israelites, because these were the first ones that made the journeys to the Americas, were the Tyrians and the Israelites. King Hiram of Tyre, King Solomon of the Israelites, had a navy at Ezen Gibeon that went to the Americas initially. This is how, as we read earlier, how the 10 lost tribes knew how to take this journey, when it says, and they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river, for the Most High then showed them signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over, because that great east wind, which what propels them to make that journey to the Americas. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of what? Of a year and a half. How long was the journey? With King Hiram and Tyre, 3-year journey. A 3-year return journey. So it took them a year and a half to get there. And the same place is called Azareth, which means another land, right? Which we showed you earlier. So Hiram was the king of Tyre. Those are the Tyrians. That's why I said the book, when it says that the Tyrians and the Israelites, right? Because they took the first, that's how they knew to take that journey. So when we go back here, when it says here, we will prove the impossibility of this for any vessel in the North Pacific Ocean having left China or Japan and becoming unmanageable from the loss of rudder, the prevailing east wind would not only prevent the vessel from reaching the western coast of America, but actually would drive the ship back to China, Japan. So they could have never have come from the west, the Israelites, like some of these scholars like to tell you, because that prevailing east wind would stop you. That same prevailing east wind is what the Most High used to steady the seas and to drive that ship to the Israelites on their journey to the America. That was the only possible route, was to come around the Horn of Africa, through the Red Sea, through the River Euphrates, into the Persian Gulf, into the Indian Ocean, around the Horn of Africa, into the Atlantic Ocean, and then to the east coast of America. They could have never have come to the west coast. No one could have come from China, Japan, from the west coast to America neither, because some scholars like to say, oh, it was the Chinese or Japanese that built those cities in the Americas and then went back, and then the Native American Indians just went and lived in them. That's total BS. Just like what they're showing here, it was unnavigable for you to take that journey from the west coast, to come from China, Japan. They had to come from the Middle East or Africa, from that route there, basically, into the east coast of the Americas. Just like what it says there. It says, this last sentence is not given to refute Mr. Stevens, but those writers who may have, he states, even supposed a possibility of vessels being accidentally thrown upon the western coast of America. He says, nature would prevent it. It says, this celebrated east wind, that east wind which the Most High controlled and drove them to the Americas, we shall have occasion to analyze and explain in the investigation of the first voyage around the continent of Africa. By who? By the Tyrians. Who are the Tyrians? The Tyrians are King Hiram, king of Tyre. Those are the Tyrians. So when we go back to here, and it tells you Solomon made a navy of ships of Ezen-Gibeah, which is beside Eloth, on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom, and Hiram, which is the king of the Tyrians, sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. That's how the northern kingdom knew about the journey and how to navigate it 250 years later when they went into captivity. All right? Because the Tyrians and the Israelites were in the same navy together and was making that journey many a times. And like we read here in where is it? I think it was here. I read it. Hold on. Stay with me. Here it is. 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 22. For the king, King Solomon, had at sea a navy of Tarshish, which is Spain. So they also had a navy at Spain, Tarshish, with the navy of Hiram, the Tyrians. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. Why is it 3 years? That's the round trip journey. A year and a half there, a year and a half back. That's the round trip journey. How long did it take the Israelites to get to the Americas? Just like it says here. But through that country, there was a great way to go, namely of what? Of a year and a half. And the same came to a region called Azareth, another land, the Americas. That's how they know. That's how they know. Hold on. So this. Oh, we might just finish it there. You know, we're going to finish it there. Now I'm going to finish it there because I'll tell you, there's a couple more pages there, but we can finish it there. I think we can definitely finish it there. So that's the, like I said, that's the book that I'm reading from. For those that are still wanting to know, we've gone 90 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's the serpent deity of the pre-Columbian Yucatan. Yeah, that's right. That's right. To the deity of the choir. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, what I'll do, because this is not you want, yeah, the Yucatan Mayam. That's absolutely right. This is not actually a PDF that I'm reading. I'm what I'm showing you is from the actual book. So I've got a copy of the actual book here in front of me. Now you're asking me to post the link as a PDF, but I've got the book actually here with me. I don't have the PDF copy. I don't know if there is a PDF copy online on the internet, but the pages that I'm showing you were pages that I had personally photographed out of my own book that I'd been reading and highlighting, and I'd uploaded the pages to my laptop for me to do the certification, basically. So I don't know if there is a PDF link to it, but if there is, if I do find one, I'll drop it in the comment of this video for you, right? GMS Hawaii, just so that you know. So I'm going to leave it there. We've got an hour and a half. I've really enjoyed this edification. The Israelite history of the Native American Indians in the time of Columbus. And I tell you, for anyone that still believes that these so-called black-only Israelites are living in La La Land, Disneyland, all right? Those are our people. We are also scattered and mixed amongst the other nations. But those are our people, undoubtedly proof, once again, the history of the Native American Indians in the time of Columbus. So on that note, I pray you were all edified by today's edification. As always, I want to give all the praises and the glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Kadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, our elders, our teachers, and shalom to my fellow Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters that have been edified by the truth of the scriptures of who we are, the true children of Israel, and who the other nations are. As I always say, keep praying, keep safe, and hold on to this truth. But this is all we got, family, and we are truly at the door. All praises and glory. Shalom, 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 family. All praises. I pray that you guys were edified by today's edification. I know it was a bit long, but it has to be done. All praises. Shalom, family.